And I remember I said, God put me here for a reason. And it was like my second year. I got this call to a dialysis center. So I said, okay, I'm good. I walk in, and all of a sudden I couldn't breathe. There's a certain smell in the dialysis center. It just hits me. Like I go into almost this anxiety attack.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
Yeah. And you're probably pretty in tune to your body at this
I was also a pharmacy major before I became a cop.
Okay. But you're because of your exercise, your sports,
yes,
you're in tune to your body.
And being with kidney disease, I did a lot of research, went to online seminars of it. So I learned a lot, and it helps a lot of people because a lot of people reach out to me.
How did you get the kidney?
So the first one was Marcus Brito. He was a Marine, a friend of my ex-wife and I. He found out I needed a kidney. I think he was stationed in Germany at the time. And he said he came home. And he goes, I got a kidney for you. I said, no, I didn't know him that well even at the time. And he was 21, 22 at the time. He said, I want to do it. The doctor said, he's a little young, but no, he did it. And we matched and everything was going great. For 13 and a half years, it was going great.
Now, what was the effect to him giving up his kidney?
Nothing. He was, honestly, and to be a kidney donor, people are worried sometimes. He went on with his life. He went back in the military. They put him in Afghanistan after that. And now he's a New York City fireman.
I always wondered that. Like, if you give up a kidney, because,
Well, obviously, if you get, if you ever get shot in that kidney, you ever get stabbed in it, and you ever get cancer in it, then
you got a problem.
You lose it. But you do go to the top of the list because you were a donor. You don't wait.
Kind of back in your play a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad. So you go through the surgery.
Go through the surgery at the first time at Columbia Presbyterian.
And how long was the recovery process?
I was back to work on the desk in, I'd say it was about maybe 6 months.
Was that 2009, you said?
2009, so 2000. I had it January 15th, 2010. I was back on the desk, and then I was full duty the next year already. And
no restrictions?
No restrictions. They didn't really want to put me at first, so I'd have the doctor sign off on it. We went back and forth because of liability. So I was one of the first guys to go back full duty with a full kidney transplant because I fought for it.
Well, what was their view? What was the reason
if
for
I get shot in it, if I get hurt, if I get kicked in it,
well, So now you're functioning on one kidney.
At the time, they don't remove any kidneys. So at that time, I had 3. The one transplanted, and you keep the 2 in you. They don't take any out unless it's polycystic or cancer.
And no,
it's got to be a little.
And it goes in the front.
Not too much room in there.
Yeah, the first one goes in the front. First one went in the front right.
I don't like. I'm having a tough time. Like, do you pee extra? Do you like what?
I pee a lot now because I recently had it, so it's still working overtime. But
and your body might reject it too, right?
It could reject it. That's why you take anti-rejection meds, which suppress your immune system, which is also a risk with that.
Risk.
Yeah, that's
but that's a
little scary.
It outweighs dialysis, let me tell you.
Oh well, so Butch Sanchez.
Yep, absolutely.
So we had a guy in here. He was waiting for his kidney, and his kidney was failing, and waiting, and finally he did find a donor, but he was tired all the time.
Oh, I was on dialysis the first time for just 2 months, and it was bad, but not like this time.
So when he came in here the second time with his friend, just to support his friend who was doing the show, he's over in the corner and you're watching him because he had just done dialysis that day.
I can't tell you. They should add it to the UN list of tortures. That's how bad it is. I cannot tell you the psychological
right next to Chinese
effect,
water torture.
The psychological effect, the physical effect.
Well, walk us through a dialysis
So basically,
session.
dialysis is there. It's the artificial kidney to clean your blood, let's say, to simplify it. So you'll go on. They tell you you'll be on for only an hour or 2 hours now. You're on for anywhere from 4 hours, 5 hours, 3.5 hours. The bigger you are, the longer you're on.
So it just flushes your blood.
It flushes your blood, but it takes everything. It takes all the good out and all the bad. So you'll start up. I had a time, I never got a fistula in my arm, but I got a catheter in my chest. So it goes to basically the artery in your heart. It's connected there. So if anything goes wrong, you're pretty much screwed.
Yeah, no kidding.
They set you up. They hook you up. It takes about probably 20 minutes to hook you up, as long as there's no blockage. And then they run this machine. You sit there. They give you a TV, and you get really cold at first. And you got to have a blanket, and it's brutal. It's just, you get dizzy, your blood pressure drops. They try to put your feet back. The second time I had to be rushed to the hospital because I went to AFib. my heart rate at the time was 100. AFib or tachycardia, they weren't sure. Because the two guys at the ambulance got to fight and tore up the strip. But it was about 180 beats a minute sitting there. I was just sitting there, and they didn't know what to do. The dialysis center's like, give you fluids. Well, now you fluid overload me. So they call an ambulance, and you're there, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going to happen. It's all the unknown. That's the problem. Every time you go into dialysis, imagine taking a gun and playing Russian roulette, putting one in the chamber, and putting it to your head. That's how dialysis is, because you never know what's going to happen. That could be the last day. The first time I watched 2 people die in front of me on it. The first time I went through it.
Oh, that's a cheery thought.
Yeah.
After I talked to this woman for a week, she's an older woman.
It'll make you want to come back the next time.
Yeah.
So the psychological effect is probably worse than the physical effect. Afterwards, you're exhausted. You just want to sleep. Sometimes, my mom would drive me home sometimes. I couldn't even walk out of the car the second time.
And you're probably, so your dialysis was after you got your kidney, or?
No, the dialysis is prior to the kidney. It works instead of the kidney, it works. That works for the job of the kidney.
So you got to be thinking your career's over.
At that point, I wasn't even thinking of career. I was thinking, let me live. Then once I got the kidney, I'm like, all right, let's get back in the gym in a couple of weeks. Let's start doing little by little, And, the mind is the most powerful thing that I believe there is. And for good and for bad. For good, you could achieve anything. For bad, it could bring you into a black hole where you don't even want to be part of the world anymore.
Especially with the internet now, too, because now you're going to start looking stuff up on the internet.
Don't Google anything.
Exactly.
Dr. Google.
Yeah, don't Google anything, because I thought one time I had malaria.
My wife is famous for that. She automatically, she has a cough, she's got lupus or something like that. So when you start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel after you get your first kidney, you got to think, okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm good. I went back to work. And I remember I said, God put me here for a reason. And it was like my second year. I got this call to a dialysis center. So I said, okay, I'm good. I walk in, and all of a sudden I couldn't breathe. There's a certain smell in the dialysis center. It just hits me. Like I go into almost this anxiety attack. So I'm like, God, just please get me out of here. We were there for a veteran. He was on dialysis, and he wanted to kill himself. And the place was like, he's got vodka in the bottle. I said, this guy had been drinking too. He's got vodka and he's drinking. He said, I want to die, officer. Leave me alone. I said, listen, I went through dialysis. He goes, you're full of crap. You didn't go through no dialysis.
Show him his card.
I said, I'll tell you this. This is everything I did. This is what, blah, blah, blah. He goes, okay, I'll only go to the hospital with you. Anybody touches me, I'm fighting them. So my partner's like, my partner at the time, he's like, all right, go ahead. So I said, all right, will you walk out with me? He goes, I don't know if I can walk. So we get the trundle. We start, the ambulance comes. We walk him out. The young girl, about 22, and she tries to grab my arm. I said, what's up? She's like, hey, did you get a transplant and all? I said, yeah. She goes, they told me I can't get one. She's about 21, 22. And I look at her. She's, my mom's outside. Can you talk to her? I said, okay. So I leave. We're going out. I talk to the mom. I says, your daughter's inside. She okay? Yes. I had got a transplant. I talked to her quick. I said, I can't stay. I got to get this guy to the hospital. But I'm going to come back and talk to you. Go to the hospital. I come back. I start talking to the mother. I set them up at the time. I told them, go to Columbia. Then they'll probably do the transfer for your daughter. I kept in touch with them. I remember my DO called me again, another guy. He's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm just helping this girl. We get back on patrol.
But isn't that what a police officer really is supposed to do?
Yeah, that's what I thought. He goes, stop playing around. Stop malingering.
Yeah.
You and the other guy you with, these guys love to malinga, which we did sometimes.
Yeah, well, but not this time.
It was always to eat. It was always to eat on meals we prepared. But so she got a transplant. She had a thing called scleroderma. That's what ruined her kidney.
Oh, scleroderma. Yeah,
Yes.
One of my wife's aunts had that. It's an awful disease.
She was in college. She got this virus. She got scleroderma, and that was it. And she was doing really good. And I remember one night it was late. I had gotten divorced at the time. I was alone in the house.
That's how you know you're a cop, by the way.
It was me and the dog. And I got this call from her mother. She goes, hey, she passed away. I said, you kidding me? What happened? She goes, I don't know. She goes, they say the way the diseases came back. But I went to the wake, and the mother, I never forget, I broke down. She thanked me for everybody.
Well, you became a voice of comfort for a lot of people because you survived
a voice of
it.
success.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a success.
It's no different than an officer involved in a shooting who survives it.
Yes.
And they become a voice of comfort for other officers. So you're one of those rare people, and you're much more rare than officers in shootings now.
There's just with kidney disease, it's a different type of disease. Unless you had it, you don't get it. I mean, I couldn't cry because it hurt. And what I mean by that is, your blood urea nitrogen is so high, when you cry, it burns. And it just burns so bad, it hurts to cry.
So
Wow.
how about like does it hurt when any liquid leaves your body, like peeing?
No.
You said it burned.
No.
You said you had a little burning during your.
That was the first time I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with it.
So when you get back on the department, how do the other guys look at you?
But not bad. They were like, "Oh, are you good?" I said, "Yeah, I'm good." And they were okay with it. You know, the little rumors in here. I don't know how long it's gonna last. You know, stupid things they would say. What really bothered me about the department was I had arrested somebody. The guy was like a restaurant owner or something. At the time, he had PBA cards, as they call them. I don't know what they do in Jersey.
Yeah,
If they have.
Yeah,
PBA cards.
yeah.
They were all upset. Which, whatever. The guy, he was a 3-time loser. He got locked up. So, oh well. And one of the guys said, "I don't want to show you this, but I feel I have to. I'm a friend of yours." They had a group chat that says, "Wish he would have died during the transplant. When's that thing going to fail? They should have let him die." All this stuff. That was from
Another cop.
fellow
Another
cops.
Yeah.
Numerous fellow cops. Department knew about it. They didn't do anything about it.
Now,
Of course not.
Why would they say that?
They got free meals at this place.
Oh, because
Well, unfortunately, some guys, like I say, some cops, and I love cops. They have a tough job. Get some guys will sell their soul for a 7-day-old wiener from 7-Eleven.
Yep.
they do it, and they'll rob their own brothers and sisters
It's
to
just,
do it.
you know, I mean, the guy's going to kill somebody, you know?
If it's free, I'll take 3.
Yeah. If it's free, it's for me.
Years ago, there was a restaurant in our town that would give us one meal. They would give us a meal. And guys would go in there 3-4 times a shift. They'd take advantage of it. And they sat there and they ate it, which they shouldn't have. We had guys that would dress up and go there to get it. The worst was this same guy would take money from everybody in the police department and say, "Hey, listen, I'm going to go pick up dinner." Take money from everybody, and they'd give them all the meals for free.
Yeah. And you got to remember, I used to tell these guys, you're making $150,000 a year or more. This poor guy, you hit him for 6 or 7 meals. He's got a business to run.
Yeah.
So they sent me to pick up food once, which I hated. I said, I don't pick up food. I ain't a delivery guy. So I said, okay, I'll pick up your food. Guy tells me, they must have ordered $300 worth of food. $20. I said, no, you charge me full price.
Yeah.
Charge me full. Because I want to prove a point. I go in, whatever it was, 130, 140. What? You better go back and give that guy parking tickets in front of his place. No, I don't think so. Give me the money. I ain't paying. And you ain't eating. I'll go give it out to homeless guys. I don't care.
Yeah. I don't.
They paid. I never had to pick up again.
I don't like that either. I don't think I never took
Listen,
anything.
I was right out of the academy. I think I told you a story once before. I was with an old timer, and we stopped at a Boston market for lunch. And we were sitting there. We were in uniform.
You're dating yourself, bro.
Yeah. And the manager comes, as the guy's ringing us up, the manager comes over. She goes, "Oh, no, they get the police discount." She punched all these numbers. Came out to like $1 off.
Yeah.
There's so many people in the store that are so pissed off at us.
Well, our patch was the Lion, and this old time used to go, time to eat. He goes, you got to come to work with the same amount that you came with, you leave with. And he goes, he would tap the Lion on the arm where the patch was. The Lion's hungry, kid.
I had a similar sentiment as you. These people got businesses to run.
Right.
And listen, they want us in there. They
Yeah.
do. They want us in there. It's good visibility for them. It keeps the
Right.
place safe. If it's a cop hangout, less likely to get robbed. But they still have to make a living. They go home and feed their family. So they're somewhere in the middle but you know, we're our own worst enemies.
Yeah, I agree.
Without doubt.
Yeah, you
Without
know,
a doubt.
they find if there's a barber in town giving away free
Oh, yeah.
haircuts, next morning
We had a guy he retired. He was still dressed up in the uniform, go do his dry cleaning and eat.
We had a guy like that too.
I don't know. We make
Until his son got on the job, and then he sends his son to go pick up the food.
we make enough money.
That's what I said.
You know, we make enough money where we can afford to buy our own stuff. I never let anybody
Yeah.
do that. I always paid for whatever they charge me, whatever they charge me, but I always paid for something.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a bad way to do things. So you move on. Any issues? Any problems that you had?
I had taken Nexium after the transplant. Doctor prescribed me Nexium. Had a little acid reflux. And my numbers went a little out of whack about 6 months later. And I went to the doctor. They said, nope, never heard of that. I said, really? Because I had a little protein in my urine, creatinine spiked. I was like, oh, God. And a year later, I found out, Nexium causes kidney damage.
Oh, nice.
I'm like, oh. But it stabilized, thank God, you know, because I got off that. And I was doing great.
Well, that's what happened to Charlie.
Yeah.
So Charlie had a medication interaction,
Yeah.
and caused a stroke.
Yeah.
And there's a guy as healthy as a horse.
Yeah.
So I'll bet you, like you, because you were so healthy, when you first found out that you had something was up with your kidney, you're probably like, no way. No, my hands just swelled up. It's just nothing.
I didn't think it was kidney disease.
I was going to say, how would you correlate a swollen hand to a kidney? You know, my
I think
hand's
it was
swollen,
just
must be my
I
kidney.
think honestly, it was just God's way. I would have never known.
Yeah.
And then when I asked the doctor later on, he says, you would have just dropped dead in the police car.
So there's a story with Charlie. So Charlie called me. When we're talking about Charlie Cifarelli, the owner of Star of the Dog, he called me the day he was having a stroke. And he's like, hey, Kev, I think I'm having a stroke. I'm like, Charlie's healthy as a horse.
Right.
I said, there's no way you're having a stroke. He drove to Newark Airport, 18 hours, and then comes home. He had a stroke. Yeah. So again, it can hit anybody at any time. So you worked the rest of your career. You were able to
Worked the
retire.
rest of my career. I retire. I did almost 21 years. I retire in March 3rd. It was 2018. The job was changing. They were breaking my chops about another arrest I made, and you could tell when they start wanting memo books. When I want to go over your memo books in times now, because don't forget, that memo book was off by 3 minutes. You signed the bottom of that. That's perjury.
That's perjury.
And
I used to love the memos. I used to love memos because they never, when they put out a memo, because it was all paper, when they put out a memo, I was that asshole that kept them all. And I remember. So whenever they would break a rope, no. Remember this memo.
Yeah.
Or I would do things like my department was very toxic. And you weren't allowed to call the way they put the memo out. You weren't allowed to call a superior. You weren't allowed to call a superior by their first name inside headquarters. So I see a sergeant friend of mine. I'm like, hey, Steve, what's going on? I do it right in front of the chief. Get in here. I get yelled at. We're writing you up. We're going to take days from you. And I said, why? And he said, well, you called Steve by his first name. He's a sergeant. I said, no, that memo said superiors. Go look in the table of organization. He's a supervisor. You said superiors, which is lieutenant and above. Yeah.
They must have loved you.
Oh,
after that.
Yeah, they.
Yeah, I wasn't too loved at the end either, but I'm not getting into it because I don't give it any more energy than it had.
Well, I like to poke holes in hypocrisy.
Yeah.
They're breaking my balls. I know they're breaking my balls. So guess what? Two can play at that game. Right. And but it was a very toxic environment and it wasn't fun. It stopped becoming fun probably about year 11 or maybe 10, where you worry more about like your department. You worry more about your own personal safety within the department.
Yes.
Not out on the street. Out on the street's fine.
Like I said,
I expect it from a permit.
A lot of it is the rule changes and everything that happen midstream, but a lot of it is the guys you work with that makes you hate the job. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, and they're always the ones that they're up the administration's ass.
You got guys
They're the do-nothing guys that need to prove that they're worth something.
Well, it's the guys that don't want to do anything without work, but when they're in a bar or talking to a girl, they want to have the PBA shirt on, drunk as a skunk, and talking all about the job. But you don't want to do. You don't even want to answer an alarm call when you're on the job. I had guys used to tell me, I didn't even know what it was at first. I got a no-hitter going. No-hitter, 2 days. That means you didn't get a call for 2 days.
Oh, my Lord.
It's called a no-hitter.
We had a guy.
I never heard that one, but I like that one.
He was the road supervisor on a midnight shift. And he used to just go in and sleep in the back office all night.
Yeah.
So it snows in the middle of the night. And the road supervisor has to call the DPW, the DPW supervisor, and let them know that it's snowing. And about 6 o'clock in the morning, this guy gets a call from the DPW supervisor. Says, why didn't you tell me it was snowing? He goes, I didn't even know it was snowing.
Oh, my gosh. First of all,
the road supervisor.
You should never admit that. That was his first mistake. So when it starts to become toxic like that, especially you had your time in, you only had to do 20, correct?
Yeah, I did. I had to do 20. I did almost 21, and that was it. Because the guys that were sleeping all night long, bringing their pajamas to work, sleeping in the back of the car, those guys became chiefs now.
Yep.
And they thought everybody was screwing everybody over. They thought everybody was like them, so they really put the ham in everybody. Guys who worked, guys to everybody. I said, if you want to succeed in the police department,
do nothing.
Do one or two things. Go to legal bureau or join the pipe band.
We had this conversation a little bit off air. It's the people that should be the chief. Mm-hmm. For that reason, they will never become the chief because they're the good cops. Right. They're the ones who are motivating. And, I was telling you about a conversation I had with a gentleman. His name's Steve Sarjace, probably one of the best sergeants I ever worked with in my life. And fun. We worked, but we had the most amount of fun. So if you think about it, if you go back through your career, the times you had the best times were the times you did some work.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we would laugh constantly
Yeah.
at some of the things that we would do. I mean, I could say it now, but my partner, Joe, real old school Italian, it was hilarious. We'd have these drunk people. They'd get so drunk, they'd crash and everything. And this is a true story. I said, Father Joe, I used to call him, right? He didn't like do paperwork, but he would always assist me. He hated paperwork. He said, I didn't go to the fancy schools like you. I grew up in it. So I said, okay. So he would go in the back, and these people would just start confessing to him. I had 3 or 4 drinks. I know I'm drunk, but why am I driving? This guy is a real hard ass in the front. Yeah, he is. You're absolutely right. And I'd be sitting there laughing. One night he comes in. I said, what is he doing? Father, can you bless me? I said, Father. He puts a priest collar on, and he's in the back with the guy. What happened, son? The guy starts telling him, hey, it's 7, 8 drinks. This is my 3rd DWE. And, it's things like that you can't do now. But, I mean, it was hilarious at the time.
Those are the little fun things. And you know what? I guarantee you, this guy, when that person confessed to him, probably went a little lighter on him.
Yeah, because it would lighten the mood, these guys. And if you had a guy that was screaming already and fighting the whole time, you did everything, But if you had somebody you want to, you just want to make them at ease, it's hard. I get it. You drank and drove, it's hard. You made a mistake. But now, if it's your first time getting arrested, you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
So you try to make them at ease a little, and you make your night easier. I would get him something to eat, even though you really shouldn't. I try to ease him up, like just listen, go through it. It's a horrible thing, believe me, I guess getting arrested. But I said, I'd rather arrest this guy tonight than some mother, father, or kid go visit a grave in a cemetery every year.
Yeah, you got that
that
right.
got killed.
Right. So you retire now. Did you have a plan for when you retired?
Yeah, retired.